It's Sunday, July 6th, 2025. It's not a particularly warm day, and the sky looks like it might rain. They haven't been forecasting rain for today, but I thought I'd come out today. It's Sunday, and I'm trying to rest a little bit. We've been doing a few markets. Did a market again yesterday. It wasn't a long one, and it wasn't a late one, but it still, makes us a bit tired. So, being Sunday, I decided not to hit it full on. Take an excuse to be lazy, I guess. But I do want to get an idea what's going on. I haven't really been in the hives a lot lately, so I want to get an idea of where they're at and where the honey flow is. And I'm still kind of wondering where the honey flow is. Yeah, it's weird. There doesn't seem to be hardly anything going on here. I have some sweet clover. It's a sweet clover year, and I don't have very many bees this year. That's what happens. When I have fewer bees, the sweet clover does really great. Sweet clover makes just about the best honey, in my opinion. So, thought I'd bring you along. I want to check in this one. I did already just lift the lid, and there's some stuff in there I just want to show you and talk about. I often don't even start the smoker, but today I preemptively started it just because it's not that, what is it, 20? I guess it's 20 C or so out here, which isn't cold, but we have it a bit of a north flow. Up till Friday it was quite hot, and now it's not. And that north flow brought in a bunch more smoke from up north. And I don't want to complain about that too much, but it is a fact that that is the way it is. Okay. Now, you may recall, recently I shook these hives down, and I put some second honey supers on here. I'm going to show you another one, but I'll show you this one because it's an example of pre-waxing frames. And these were frames that I had cleaned up, so they had no wax. So I had to add wax. But in the last few days, you can see that they have used that wax very profitably. Now, I'm attempting to make a section of comb honey in the center here. So, I hope that works out. There's another one. So in a matter of a day or two, they'll generally pull that wax to the extent that you've given them. They'll just pop it out into the honeycomb shape. Yeah, see, even there. Alright, so I've got a bait frame here. And this one is full of nectar. They're starting to cap it on the edge. So, there's a little tiny honey flow, but it's not very strong. And this one they've worked a little bit more on. So I hope they start filling that gap in the middle, and they do a nice job for me. All right. I want to look at the next box down as well. So I hope this doesn't get too exciting when I crack these off. So you can see here that this is right full of bees. Thinking maybe I should take a different approach because they're filling this up so you could see You can see white wax here. White wax, that's honey flow. That's exactly what that means. They're bringing in that drawing comb, they're filling it up. Yeah, these are quite full. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to restrict them or constrict them too much in order to cause them to decide they should swarm, because they still could. But I want to encourage them to draw my comb honey. Yeah, this is really quite lovely. I want to put this back together. So I'm wondering if I should take some of these comb honey frames I have. They are working it. I think they're filling this a little bit. Not really, not yet. Well, I don't know. If you have any suggestions, let me know. I want them to build this comb honey. I really want them to build this comb honey. That's very important to me. A good job for a Sunday is checking mating nukes. We checked these last week. They were actually not quite due to be checked, but we found a lot of successful laying patterns already. And we put a check mark on the ones that were laying. So I'll check the ones that have no check mark. So now my next task with these nukes, the ones that are laying, is to grow them up. And this one is laying. She's got larvae, probably 2 days old in there. So that's a success. I love the mating success. I love the mating success this time of year. That's a nasty frame. Holy smokes. I haven't been too careful to keep the frames spaced nicely in these, but the honey flow is approaching. I'm being optimistic about that. And so it's becoming more important. So we got a laying queen here now too. Nice. R5, R5, R5. They're not quite ready to be checked. I prefer to try to give them their due process and wait for them. I've got plenty of work to do here besides, so we'll just continue on down the row. These two side by side are R4, but they have no check mark. Very calm, but there is no sign of a laying queen yet. The visitor from Britain was quite thrilled with the gentle bees. And I don't have, he's actually been keeping bees about the same length of time I have. I don't have that much experience with different areas, different kinds of bees. So I don't have a lot of experience with really hot bees, you know. These are kind of the only bees I've ever known. And I'm really thrilled that they aren't nasty. It's quite overcast, so we don't have a nice sun to shine in the cells. They're starting to fan now. So I don't think they have a laying queen. Can't win them all, right? They're doing really well as a group. But nothing's 100%. It's a good population here. It'd be a shame to waste this. I see 3 on this pallet. I put in some of these really heavy feed frames. They're almost a little more than space fillers. These queens should be marked. I marked them as they emerged. And I should have my Mike Berry flashlight with me. Because there's nothing shined at. Oh, I think I see. Get these things, these smartphones, I got a flashlight on them. Okay, move aside. It's not quite the right kind of flashlight, maybe. I'm pretty sure I saw some milk brood in there. You can take a picture and then, yeah, there's eggs. Yeah, that's what I want. Okay. Another success. If there's a question about what I see, if I think I might see eggs and not quite convinced, if there's any question, I just leave it. Because then I can come back next round and check. I've been giving them a little bit of sugar. It's just beekeeper fussing, that's all that is. I see plump larvae there. Larvae. Larvae is the plural. And there's plump larvae and sealed brood there. And a nice black queen with a blue dot. I think this one, as I recall, was one of those questions last time. So I didn't mark it. But this time it's not a question. It's all good. Now we're into our 3s. And I think they've timed out. It's to the end of the time frame for them to mate. So these nucs need to be disbanded. There's a queen in there. I think she just saved her life. She's not very big, but she's laying. So, I'll call that a laying queen. And she'll have to prove herself with her pattern. So I'll check mark that one. Won't be my first choice for a queen. I don't cull enough queens. Part of my difficulty is my queens quite often should be culled out. Yeah, they're starting to roar. That roar's pretty indicative of a queenless colony. So look at this pallet. 6 check marks. That's a nice looking pallet. There's another pallet with 6 check marks. Our 3s and our 2s. So there's our 2 with check marks. Here's an R5, but that's not ready to be checked. This one just petered out. I should take it away. This is an R1. It's too bad. It wasn't long ago that I was running out of mating nukes. I could reuse these now. But I'm done with queen rearing for the season. And this was not successful. And there they go with their roar. This is the only one that's ready to be checked. And it's an R1, so if it hasn't been found laying before now, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be found laying. A nice population though. Probably drift, eh? There's the roar. So what's the plan with these? It looks like I've got quite a few. The plan is multifaceted. I have been requeening some colonies that need requeening. I don't have very many queens that are old enough to do that yet. You know, assuming that a lot more of these R5s and 6s work out, I will have quite a few. There's probably going to be 50 or so here. You may see way out in the far there, there's 6-frame polystyrene boxes, and I think that's my best bet. So process will be, again, pick up the nuke, close the door, put it in my building for 2 nights, bring it back, set it over here in the apiary on a new spot, and transfer it then into a 6-frame polystyrene box, hoping that they'll fill that box before winter. That's the whole idea with these. This is next year's livestock. So fill the box before winter and winter well. That is my desire for these. So that's it. That's probably, I need to start doing that. They're not by any means filling these little boxes yet, but likely in another week or so, I should plan to start that process with some of the better ones. Get them moved over to their proper space in the apiary. And, you know, don't necessarily have to move them, but there's just not space on the stands for a bunch of 6-frame boxes. I could do that. I could just put a 6-frame box here and transfer it for some of them and take maybe every second one away. I can do that. The boxes will ultimately live on those blue pallets. 6 of those polystyrene boxes go on a blue pallet quite well, and I can lift that with my tractor when winter comes and take that back into the building for winter. So I think that's what's going to look like. So stay tuned for all that shenanigans going on in the future. Thanks for watching. It's Friday. This week has really flown by. Of course, I was taken away from home for a couple of days on, well, business and unrelated matters. However, I've got a problem here with my melter, and a problem I've had before. I was going to say it's no fault of the melter, the manufacturer, the way it's built, but they could have averted the problem that I'm having. And the problem is, if I fill, you see how I have bricks and boxes and stuff sitting on here, because I have frames in here, and they're wooden, so they float. And I wanted to fill that with water and then cook them overnight, and then bring them out and clean them up, whatnot, part of my rendering process. And something I've actually, this is the second time I've done this. I feel kind of stupid about it. But I put my hose in here and then I go do something else and then it overflows, which in itself isn't a big problem. I've got, you know, drainage on the floor. It's not a big deal. However, when that overflows, the controller is in very close proximity to the tank, and a little bit of moisture gets in that controller and ruins it. It's a $200 controller. Used to be $120 like 5 years ago, the first time I did this, but now it's much more money. So I've tried to fix it, I've tried to dry it out, and it's just not starting up again, so I have no choice but to replace it. Now, in my research into the different models, there's 15-20 different models of this controller, but they just have different parameters. Some of them are meant for 12 volt circuits or 36 volt circuits or 120 volt circuits. So, you know, you have to choose the right one. And it's not hard to find the right one, you just have to read the specs. But there's also a version of this controller that has the same specs, but it's in a waterproof case. Now this controller that's on here is a model A419. That's an older controller style. The one it came with is an A421. And the A421 is the one that I use on my warming cabinet. And I love it. It works great. It's rock solid. But in that configuration, in that situation, it's far less likely to come into contact with water. It's up high and there's not water involved there. So when I replace this, you can't get a 419 anymore. The 421 is the updated version, which is good. The one really nice thing about it is the 421 has a backlight on the display. The 419 doesn't, so it's a little harder for an old fella like me to see it. So I went to the store with my wallet full of money and I bought myself a brand new A421 in a waterproof enclosure. It's a larger controller enclosure, and where the case meets together, it's fully O-ringed and whatnot. The entry for the probe is a waterproof grommet there, and the grommet here, I think this is a waterproof connector for the melter, so I need to knock that out and put that in there. I looked inside this one already, and it's quite a bit different than the standard 421 that I have, but this is maybe just another update. They're making the innards a little more efficient, perhaps. The other 421 that I bought, it's in a gray case. This is in a black case, so I'm assuming that it's just different iterations. So I'll show you close up to see the number, A421 AEC. Okay, the 01 just tells you what kind of probe it comes with. You can put any other probes on it. So I won't need to use this probe. It's got a very short cable. There's a nice little holder there for it. Just if you're using it to regulate the temperature in the air. This would be a good one to control the temperature in a wintering building. That would work really well. So I need to change out that probe, and I also have to do something with the mounting plate, because the mounting plate's too small and it actually has a little bit of a curve on the edge of it. So I need to, I'm just going to get I'm not a metal fabricator, I wish I was. I'm just going to get a piece of plywood, screw it to that, get a larger piece of plywood that this will fit on, screw it to that piece of plywood, and Bob's your uncle, as they say. So that's really what I'm doing here. It's not very exciting. I'll get it put together and then I'll show you kind of what the deal is. A lot of people use Inkbird controllers, and that's all good. They're not a bad unit. I used Inkbird controllers to start with, and they didn't work for my purpose. I ruined quite a bit of honey because the Inkbird didn't work properly. So then I went to this style. So I'll show you. There's really not much in these. And the big difference between this and an Inkbird, you know, to the end user, is the fact that you need to wire it in yourself. So if you're not familiar with wiring, the diagram's right there. Tells you how to hook it up. It's not a big deal. But if you're not familiar with that, that might be a little bit more than you want to handle. And so another thing that I have to watch is right here, there's the O-ring in the groove that will seal it up once I put the case back together. So that's what I'm doing here. It's not very exciting, and it's kind of over in the corner. I can't get the camera in there while I'm working on it. So I'll show you once I kind of get it mounted and hooked up. Well, after some messing around and troubleshooting and whatnot, when I took the old one off, I just kind of haphazardly pulled it out and pulled all the wires out. And so then I had to figure out what the wires did again before I put it back together. So it took me a few minutes with a multimeter, but it wasn't such a big deal. So there it is. I'll give you a little closer look at it. My dehumidifier is running in here, so it's pretty noisy. This is the old A419, and that's a good old unit. You know, it works well for this application, but you can't buy the 419 anymore. So I can hear the element on in here, and that is the new 421 waterproof. This sensor, I really wish they hadn't done this. Like, I wish they had put this in the box and left the knockout in place, because the sensor for this one comes up through here, up through the bottom, so I don't need this knockout gone. I had to open up the bottom, but I think this is a waterproof connection anyway. So I had to leave this in place. I just terminated the wires inside it just as a way to plug that hole and to keep the water out. So this sensor is doing nothing. It's just sitting here. Yeah, so it's kind of weird. A little bit weird. A wire hanging here for no reason. But yeah, they left that knockout in place. I could have just foregone the whole sensor hanging on the top of the unit. But that's a nice unit. Works well. Got it set up. Now these units have a mode on them. If you're using them out of the box, they come so that you can set an independent off temperature and on temperature. So in this situation, you want your on temperature to be lower than the off temperature. If you set it the other way around, it goes into what's called cooling mode. I don't know if you can see this. There's a little tiny flame there beside the 21. If you put it in cooling mode, there'll be a little snowflake picture. And I don't ever want that to happen, because if I inadvertently did that, then this thing would come on and never shut off, because it would be thinking that being on is lowering the temperature. So what you can do is you can set this up the way you want, set a temperature differential, which I set 1 degree temperature differential. And then you open it up and there's a little jumper inside here. You just pull that off and move it over one setting, and then that saves both the heating mode and the temperature differential that you've set. Of course, you turn that off and then change the jumper and then turn it back on, and then you're in that mode that you choose. So that's nice. I learned that. I had that happen on my warming cabinet one time. I got into cooling mode and it overheated the honey. And I wasn't too happy. But then I read the directions, oddly enough, and changed the mode. It's been really smoky out here. The forest fires up north are still raging. The province is under a newly declared state of emergency, and we're not near the fires. Don't worry about us. We're not near the fires. Just pray for the people up north and that the forest fires will be put out. We just need a good rain up there. So that's what's happening down here. A lot of smoke. But otherwise, it's been very warm, very humid. Oh, it's been humid. Yesterday was just terrible. But anyway, I'll probably wrap this up for this week. I really appreciate you watching, and we'll get into some more stuff next week. Take care and have fun.